Oh, so excited to be here with Louise Eddington for our 2025 and Beyond Summit. It's such a delight always to be with you, Louise. And she's got a very fascinating topic we'll be talking about in just a moment around the Centaurs. But just to give you a little bit of background, she is the cosmic owl and has been studying and practicing modern quantum astrology as an interest for over 30 years and then working professionally for since 2012. And she has all kinds of certifications and amazing things that she can tell us a little bit more about. But what I'm really interested in is that you could, if you can share with us what the centaurs are. And I think your title is The Centaurs Walking Us Toward Unity Consciousness. Oh, so good. So, what are the centaurs and how are they walking us towards unity consciousness?
Well, let me share my screen because I am going to talk a little bit about that through the screen. I don't have lots of slides, but I will share the ones I've got. Let me go into presenter mode. Hang on. There we go. Oh, yeah. So, yeah, walking us towards unity consciousness. I thought first I would expand a little bit on what I mean about unity consciousness, because it's one of those terms that's kind of bandied about, right? You know, and now I really mean unity consciousness within and without. So, really, for me, the centaur's role in all of this is for us to really kind of descend into our humanness and the recognition that we are all connected in this very quantum way, all bouncing off each other and with the earth. And I have, my reasons for saying that, and we'll see that as we go through the presentation. But Kaylin is going to jump in if she's got any questions and ask.
I'm happy to do that. And I'll just say I was involved in transcendental meditation for many years, and they talked about cosmic consciousness, um, God consciousness, and unity consciousness. So,
Oh,
they had their own specific definition of that. But I think that what you're saying is beautiful because it really is about how we are united with everything. We are not separate from any of it. We just feel like we are, or we have the illusion that we are. So how do we get beyond that and back to the place of recognizing that whatever we're doing to the greater collective and to ourselves. Yeah.
and to bring it back to the unity consciousness within each of us as well. We've, in that the last several centuries, probably for a long time, we've focused so much on kind of the rational, empirical, materialistic side of being human, and kind of ignored the physical, spiritual, connected side within ourselves as well. Or we kind of think that God consciousness is somewhere up there. Instead, it's
Out
within.
here, not in here. Yeah.
So to me, unity consciousness means all of that. But what are the centaurs, first of all? So the centaurs are half man, or half human, I should say, and half horse in the myth. They have the body of a horse, but in the place of the horse's head, they have the torso, head, and arms of a human. Most centaurs in the myths were pretty wild and savage, kind of lustful, drunken kind of creatures, with the exception of the wise centaur Chiron and his wife, who we're going to talk about, who wasn't even a centaur to begin with. So that just kind of sets the scene for me about who the centaurs are. I mean, just the fact that it's half human and half animal or horse is bringing me, or brings me at least, to the recognition that we are human, we are fully human, and most of my work is all about people accepting who they truly are, and whilst maybe trying to be the best person they can, kind of recognizing that they are human and will make mistakes, and sometimes we've got those shadowy nasty bits that we don't like and all those kind of things. So that's, to me, is kind of central consciousness, if you you could call it that. So, but I want to read you a little bit from an article that's on astro.com by Irish astrologer Andrew Smith, who's got such a beautiful way with words, like a lot of Irish people have. And he said, oh, this is not his bit actually, but I'll be interspersing a couple of his words here and there. I will credit him when I get to them. But imagine a cosmic creature that blurs the lines between comets and distant icy objects. NASA has named these objects found roaming the outer reaches of our solar system centaurs. They're named after those mythical centaurs, mainly because of their hybrid nature. Um, Chiron has been called a comet, an asteroid, a minor planet. It has a comet-like tail that actually shapeshifts. Chariklo has been discovered to have rings, and astronomers keep seeing new things in these beings all the time. And basically, I just kind of think they don't know what to do with them because they're so unusual. But generally, orbiting the sun between Jupiter and Neptune, these objects are thought to be former trans-Neptunian bodies nudged inwards by gravitational influences over the last few million years. And the astronomers believe that they're in a transitional phase, sharing characteristics with both the distant Kuiper Belt objects and short period comets. That's what they believe at the moment. So I just thought I'd have to give you their thing. But as I said, I don't think they know what to think right now. But similarly, I believe that our human consciousness is being shifted in shape and awareness by these strange cosmic beings, as much as it is by many of the other transitions and changes that we're going through right now, which we'll talk about. And I'm sure many of your other speakers are talking about as a lot of outer planets change signs and transnet, and we discover new dwarf planets and all kinds of things like that. So moving on a little bit. Oh, I did want to mention though this tangle here. This to me. So here we can see we've got the sun, we've got Jupiter here, we've got Saturn here, which was the outer reaches of the known cosmos until Uranus was discovered. And then we've got some of the outer bodies, and then we've got some of the dwarf planets. But here we have Chariklo, here we have Chiron, here we have Nessus, which is another centaur. And then they're not all on here. I just could not find one with them all on. Here's Pholus. Their orbits get more and more erratic as they go in some ways. Chiron and Chariklo tend to have more even orbit than some of the others. So that, to my mind, adds to their strangeness in so many ways, right? They're called strange birds to me. All right. So I found this lovely poem about, it was written for Chiron, but I kind of feel it's for all of them. So I reach for the stars as the universe rises to meet me. My destiny and my path, ever determined by my thoughts, which fly like arrows to the target of my desire. My body of earth, empowered by the horse, my strength of spirit, enlightened by hope, assures my destination. And that was by somebody called Kim McElroy. I just kind of came across it when I was looking for a nice picture. So it was with this picture here.
I love it.
And
That's so succinct and beautifully said. Uh, yeah. And I love that you just came across it because that happens to me all the time where I'm looking for something else and I see something that actually fits into something else that it's so amazing how that works.
actually kind of like how the centaurs speak to me. I've come across them when not looking for anything else. So, but just I want to read a little bit more about the centaurs here from my notes. So the actual first centaur, Hidalgo, was actually discovered in 1920, described as not an anomalous being erratically wandering between the asteroids and Saturn at a very steep inclination above the path of the sun. But it was not until 1977 that we had another body with a less ambitious orbit discovered, and that was Chiron. And that was when science recognized the presence of a new group of substellar beings. Chiron's presence, the first of its kind, opened up a distinct pathway to bringing into full awareness the insights of the awakened mind. Orbiting towards Jupiter, Chiron crosses over both the paths that Saturn and Uranus make around our star. That's the sun, obviously, you know that. And this opens up both our physical awareness with insights as to how to become more authentic and truly free of those themes that bind and hold us fast. And I kind of love that Chiron crosses both Saturn and Uranus, because Saturn was the far reaches of our visibly known universe in this current incarnation that humanity's in. And Uranus in 1781 broke those bounds. So Chiron crosses both of those orbits of those planets. Then we had a couple more centaurs discovered, Pholus and Nessus, who I'm not really going to touch on much. But it became clear that kind of these bodies were really beginning to connect the realms of the deeper imagination and opening up the infinite and boundless possibilities of what you might call the fifth dimension within the realm we're in now. And many people who work with the centaurs and are doing great work on them. I mean, Melanie Reinhardt is, obviously, I call her the queen of the centaurs. And Kelly Hunter's done quite a lot. There's also a book on the way at some point, um, uh, with some contributions by various authors, various chapters. And there's a great blog called Amalthea blog, where she's written some amazing articles about these centaurs. Really, they are here to help us to heal. Briefly mentioning Pholus and Nessus, who were the two discovered after Chiron. Pholus generally is thought to be kind of tower moments and bringing in moments where if you've been out of integrity, you kind of have a bit of a cause and effect kind of element, but they're also there to heal kind of the root. Nessus is helping us to heal ancestral traumas in so many ways, in and it is revealing abuses of power collectively. It's been very active lately, I can tell you.
No kidding.
But sorry.
No
But,
kidding.
oh yeah, but we're going to kind of stick to Chariklo and Chiron for the most part here. But after these bodies were discovered, in the years after, many more such beings were discovered or noticed, and their path within the distant outer inner solar system charted. And each of them has a slightly different path. They're all very unique in character. Some are not fully embodying without in our physical being yet. Chariklo hasn't fully embodied, I don't think, within, but I think she is starting to now. Some of them that, you know, most astrologers have not really started working with yet are really kind of still in that transpersonal realm. But all of them are helping us to unite perspectives and fuse the worlds together. So Andrew Smith, to quote him again, he calls them walkers. He sees them as walking into kind of helping us to kind of embody this real healing moment that we're in. I think it's undoubted that collectively the world, humans, whatever, is undergoing probably one of the most steep shifts in human consciousness in known history, right? Because for so many reasons, and I try and talk about them all on my blog, but I can't talk about them all here. It's which is probably why you're calling this 2025 and beyond, right? But
You can talk
we are
about some of it now, but there's always more, always.
always, and we really don't quite know where it's going completely because it's so massive, and the centaurs are truly playing their part. But it's my belief, as I mentioned, that it's helping us to go back into my body of the earth, empowered by the horse and with strength of spirit, and to realize that this is our home and this is how we live on it. And we have to be in a higher consciousness on the earth. So, anyway, so it's my view that for now, we're only just touching on the healing message of these strange beings. To Chiron is the bridge in many ways. Chiron was the first one that was really worked with. I kind of see Chiron in some ways of the Christ as the Christ consciousness returned to Earth, not the physical Christ. But really that energy of healing, love, heal yourself first, a bit of sacrifice, all those kind of things. Pholus helped us to ground in earth consciousness and heal the root of disconnection with our physical realms. And as I mentioned, Nessus helps us to face the ancestral shadows. But then we have Chariklo. And I just love Chariklo. So we're going to look at quite a lot at her. And I'll come back to her meaning for me in a minute when we move on to more slides. But these were partners in mythology. So a little bit about their stories. Most people know the basics of Chiron's myth, or maybe not. But Chiron was the son of Cronus, or Saturn, and a sea nymph called Philyra, sorry. And both parents were in their horse form when he was conceived. So Chiron emerged as a centaur, half horse and half human. But he was not like the other centaurs, right? Some images of him actually have him with the front legs of the horse as human legs. Okay, so more human than horse. It they're all just mythical stories, so who knows exactly what. But his mother, Philyra, was so horrified that she prayed to be for him to be turned anything. She prayed to be turned into anything other than what she was, the mother of a monster. So she abandoned her son, and he was then rescued by a shepherd who took him to the sun god Apollo. Now, and then he was raised with the gods. He became a medicine man and an archer. He was much higher consciousness than the other rowdy, drunken centaurs. He was said to be a mentor to the young gods. And so he was a very much a teacher and a guru in many ways, which is why he's associated with the sign of Sagittarius, which is the sign of the centaur. So all of these things kind of come together. Kelly Hunter wrote a lovely story about Chariklo and Chiron meeting because pretty much nothing is known about Chariklo in myth other than the fact she was a water nymph. Kelly Hunter imagined her kind of seeing him in the distance, and she kind of posited that she shapeshifted to become a centaur so they could be married because they fell in love and they were to married and happy for a long time. I like to imagine that because he was mentor to the gods, that she was a mentor to the goddesses. There are some vague stories of her being a companion to a couple of the goddesses, like Pallas Athena. But I like to kind of imagine that they were kind of just, the teachers to the gods and goddesses, and taught them to be real healers and very higher consciousness beings. And Chariklo also has this cosmic doula kind of energy, because who else would have nursed Chiron after he was wounded with the wound that would not heal? And to that respect, she has kind of this Mary Magdalene energy to her, of kind of being with her love and kind of nursing him, and right through to the transition till Chiron went up into become a constellation in the stars after he gave up his immortality for Prometheus. And I think we have to remember these are myths with slightly different tellings everywhere, but to me it's just this same lifelong story of the cosmic couples who love each other and support each other in so many ways, and it could be the what's the word, the triple everything, triple goddess, triple. We've got the
So did
three
they have
because
a child together? Because that's usually what they associate that with is the um
yes, they had a daughter called Okirio,
oh cool.
or Okiroi. I can never say that word. It's spelled Okyrohe. I won't be talking much about her because I haven't worked with her much yet, but she is said to be a prophetess kind of figure, very much kind of that divine child kind of energy coming in, and so it kind of represents a divine union and the divine child that we have, you know. Again,
So many
we could.
mythic stories. The one that's coming to mind right now is Sekhmet and Ptah, who had Nefertum, who was also a healer. So their divine love created a divine child that was the precursor to Asclepius, which is
Yes.
from the Egyptian to the Greek. So yeah, I love this. This is awesome.
Yeah. And even right down to the myths, which I'm sure you studied because you work with Venus like me, of Demeter, Persephone, and Hades. Persephone and Hades were had a divine child. So when Persephone and Demeter, her mother, were reunited, she brought the divine child to her mother. So it's a story that's constant right throughout history of myths. Yeah. So, but I want to talk a little bit about where I think this is going. I did, first of all, just quickly want to look at some charts, but this is Chiron's discovery chart in 1977. A couple of things I wanted to point out because of where we are at the moment in as in the astrology transits, is that Chiron has a north node in Libra and a south node in Aries, like me. So Chiron has just had a reverse nodal return, which I'm also having as well. And his north node is in a Venus ruled sign with Pluto, so death and transformation. Vesta, which is very much about the inner flame of devotion. Venus up there in Libra too, which I love. But look where this is Chariklo here. Okay, this is her symbol. And she was close to his south node in Aries when he was born. And this is their divine child. Okay. So, and he was discovered at 3 Taurus, which is going to be significant because Chiron is going to be having his own first Chiron return since his discovery fairly soon. But one aspect that really stuck out to me is that Chiron is in the discovery chart is in a square to Mars in Leo, and Mars is currently retrograde in Leo, about to hit that 2-degree mark. Now, for so many reasons, I believe that these Chirons, Centaurs, are here to help us bring the divine masculine and feminine into balance. And this chart kind of screams that to me in so many ways. I don't have time to go over and over everything. I would mention, though, that Juno, sacred contracts, sacred divine marriage in many ways, is at 8 Sagittarius, and that's a significant degree, as we'll see going forward.
It's just something really cool about
Yes.
this part is that Pluto is now coming into opposition to where Mars was then, and of course they've been in opposition to each other during this retrograde for months. They're like a long time they're in opposition, and then of course coming into square where Chiron was at the time of the discovery. So that feels like that's also activating even before the Chiron return happens for Chiron.
Oh, absolutely. And I love that Chiron was discovered in Taurus too, because I see Taurus as it's an earth sign, but I see Taurus as the most earthly of earth signs. It's the physical body. It's to go back to all that is said about getting used to, being a physical being, not in or not just a spiritual being. I think the focus on our culture has been more on being this spiritual being and rising above anything dirty as being a physical being in so many ways. So, other things quickly to mention that Chiron has a 50.45-year orbit. It's slightly erratic, so people have a Chiron return around age 51. And he's coming up to his own. I met first one since his discovery, though of course he was always around for a while. Chiron is also associated with hands-on healing, like the words chiropractor, chiropody, chiromancy, which is another word for palmistry, hands. And so he represents themes of exile and healing. I see him more as a shaman figure, though, myself. It looks like the key to healing, right? So
I like to think of Chiron as the shamanic healer. So it's not just like we think of, healing in a certain way, usually in this culture, but it's very shamanic. It goes deep and it's about healing from the inside out, not just putting a band-aid over it or whatever, so that it becomes our medicine, our gift, rather than the thing that tends to define us in a not great way.
that, yeah. And I've often used that phrase, the wound is where the light gets in as well. So it goes in deep, the light shines in deep, he opens up, unlocks with his key, and all the healing is from the inside out, as you said. Exactly. So I'm going to go on to the most beautiful chart on Earth, I think. I'm sure you've seen it before, but I'm sure the others haven't. Chariklo's discovery chart. Now, I'm going to spend a little bit of time here because um, I've got quite the story for this discovery chart and for my own discovery of Chariklo in my life. And I find this is how the centaurs work with people. But the one before I go into my own story, this is Chariklo at 6 Leo, which is where Mars just stayed in retrograde on when we record this. But in early 1992, I couldn't remember the exact date. I think it was February the 2nd, but I could be a couple of days off. Chiron actually traveled within the orbit of Saturn. So he moved to his closest to Earth and he crossed the orbit of Saturn at 6 degrees of Leo. And that was 1992. And that was when Pholus was discovered too. But I see that, because this is how I work with them. I kind of dream the planets and things. I see that as Chiron going, okay, you need my wife now. I'm bringing her in. I'm introducing her to you. She's going to come into your consciousness by me stepping into the bounds of the known visible consciousness, at the degree she's going to be discovered at 5 years later, right? So, and just look at these degrees: 6 degrees, 5 degrees, 5 degrees, and look at all this in Aquarius, which we'll come back to. 5 degrees Sagittarius. Remember, Juno was at 8 degrees Sagittarius in Chiron's discovery chart, and 5 degrees Mars. Now, those ones I pointed to are all fire and air signs, traditionally masculine signs, very yang, very action oriented, very day energy, as I called them in my book that I wrote, The Complete Guide to Astrology. You know, our culture has been very day oriented, I would say, very doing, very action. Not always in an awful way, but also in some very less um, less healthy ways. You know, the culture has very much ignored the energy of earth and water, of yin receptivity, the divine feminine, for want of a better term. Of course, it's all within each of us, right? So now the only major body that was in a water sign when Chariklo was discovered was Chiron, her husband, who's in the sign of Scorpio and opposing Juno, sacred contracts and relationships, or the queen of the gods, and she's in Taurus, right next to the degree that Chiron was discovered at, because he was discovered at 3 degrees Taurus. These two are working together in just so many ways. And it's, you know, this is a Star of David made of 2 grand trines, and, you know, one, two, 3 oppositions. It's got yods, finger of fates involved in it. It's got a mystic rectangle, all these configurations, lots of mini grand trines. It's just like a spider's web. So I put a spider's web here. And in my opinion, Chariklo, you've worked a lot with Indigenous cultures and things, is a really strong representation of Spider Woman in indigenous myths. Her name literally means spinner of grace. She was a shapeshifter. She could, you know, mutate and change. Okay. She has an orbit of 62.7 years between Jupiter and Neptune. So that's speaking to me of expansion of consciousness and belief and faith, right? Between those two, because Jupiter's belief and Neptune faith, for want of going deeper into those two. And this is just such a powerful chart. To talk about Spider Woman a little bit, in Hopi lore, Spider Woman is the creator of all living things, including humans. Spider Woman was a goddess of the earth and the sky, so the animal and the spirit, right? And she was associated with the rainbow, the moon, 4 directions, weaving, and the deer as well. And she is also said to be able to make magic and to transform herself and everything. She also represents the connections in life, and she is said to whisper advice to people on how to better understand themselves. And she's a protector of humans and a teacher of balance, creativity, and harmony. Now, I said I'd talk a little bit about my own story, and this is really only to trigger people's, feelings and thoughts about working with Chariklo. I have Chariklo at 3 Aquarius. I actually discovered Chariklo when I was having my Chariklo return, almost to the day, right? And I had chosen a word of the year, which I do every year. And I said my word was grace before I even knew that her name means spinner of grace. Now, with all of this in Aquarius, and Aquarius being very much a quantum sign in many ways, I also always think of the Aquarius energy as the wave and quantum entanglement and quantum theory, and it's kind of electricity, but it's not. It's kind of all this kind of, it's very quantum in nature. And I'm not talking about the age of Aquarius, that you could talk about that if you like, but we are definitely moving into Aquarian energy because now we've got Pluto in Aquarius. We had Saturn and Jupiter conjunct at 0 Aquarius. We've had many things happening at 0 Aquarius. We've got many other things coming up at 6 Aquarius. And just look at all this. Okay. So, it's just the opposite to her discovery degree. And she recently had her opposition to where she was born. That was in 2022, or born from our perspective. In 2022, she opposed her discovery degree 3 times. And I think we can see what a time we've been coming into since that point. I think of her opposition as kind of like a full moon, kind of something was seeded on her discovery. And when Chariklo got 6 Aquarius, that was her full moon. That's Ceres here, the Great Mother. I've already mentioned her in the myth of Persephone and Hades as well, because Ceres is Demeter. She was at that opposite point, so Chariklo was conjunct that being then. We've got Jupiter, which is belief and expansion. Uranus is breaking the bounds. Mercury is the mind, and then Venus is everything in many ways, but she is the physical and manifestation as well as well as many other things. So many things I could say about this. I mean, is there anything that well, I would like to mention Mars and Saturn opposing each other as well, if you like, because kind of the 2 most often seen as the most masculine energies in the chart, really, even though Saturn, I'm not sure.
I definitely see Saturn as feminine, but the culture has seen Saturn as masculine. So it's how do we keep our perspective? But if we think about that and then how, so Chariklo being feminine and then this feminine energy, but with the masculine also there, I mean, it's brilliant. I'm just amazing. And I haven't really looked at this. Because it's just one more thing to look at, and I have a lot of stuff going on all the time. So, but I am loving this so much. This, yeah, makes me want to go look up and see where she was when I was born.
Definitely. And look at the nodes in her discovery chart. 29 degrees, south node Pisces, north node Virgo. And on January the 11th, I used the true calculation, by the way. The nodes by transit are moving back into Pisces and Virgo, and she will be having a reverse nodal return as Chiron has just had as well. So the north node will be conjunct her south node, and the south node will be conjunct her north node. And I see the Pisces Virgo axis as something we're really collectively moving towards. In a lot of ways, it's the practical mystic kind of energy, but it's that mix as well of kind of the physical and the spirit again. So, themes emerging.
As a south node, it's like this is wisdom she's bringing with her, and Saturn's right there. And we could say, if we look at the elders, the wise ones, the grandmothers, the energy of Saturn, um, she's bringing that too. She's bringing all of that with her, and from a Piscean perspective, but they're so close. I mean, six degrees, less than 6 degrees apart, it looks like. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I'm sure you've got other speakers on this event speaking about Saturn and Neptune both moving into Aries soon. And just Saturn will be having another Saturn return from her
She's
discovery.
gonna have a Saturn return. She's having a nodal reversal. She's got all Pluto for the next 20 years is gonna activate all that Aquarius. Oh my goodness. So a lot of transformational alchemy possible for sure.
Particularly in late 26 and early 27, Pluto will be over this Jupiter and Uranus and Ceres. So, yes, exactly. So much transformational energy.
Also
Now, a couple,
say that
sorry, go on.
how rare it is that Mars went retrograde at 6 degrees Leo. Um, it doesn't go retrograde in Leo very often, maybe every 15 or 17 years. And I did look ahead, and it'll be in 17 years in 2041. It goes retrograde again in Leo, but it's at 27 degrees. And so for it to have gone retrograde right on the discovery chart it's just like, wow, oh my gosh, this is just a whole nother level of wow. And when I
It
say
really,
wow, I mean way out wonderful.
oh no, it is way out wonderful. It gives me bumps every
Yes,
time I look at things. I'm
yes,
just like,
yes.
what? And the last time Mars went retrograde in Leo, I think it was at 3 Leo, but I think it was in 76 or 7, or end of 76 into 77. And 77 was when
Right.
Chiron was discovered.
Yes. There you go. Yeah.
So anyway, 1949, I just wanted to show you this quickly. These two are working together, Chiron and Chariklo, husband and wife. They were last conjunct in 1949. They were conjunct 3 times, but the middle conjunction in that year was right on the Pluto of her discovery chart. So that was I just, but they always meet in Sagittarius. Well, I say always Sagittarius, but Sagittarius, Centaur, half man, half horse, future, all that kind of thing, Archer. It's just like everything's mind blowing. We don't have to look at all the other transits, but I just wanted
The
to
thing
show.
about Sagittarius is about expansion of consciousness and the mind, that like when it's in its healthiest expression, deeper exploration of truth and all of that. And Pluto being in Sagittarius was like, okay, let's put a light on the shadow of everything that's in the way of that. And then having these two come along and say, yeah, and we're going to help.
And at 5 degrees was their middle conjunction. And I often, when we have 3 conjunctions or something, I always feel my personal view of from experience of working with them. The middle one seems to be the kind of peak.
The
The
retrograde, the deeper dive going, so that if it's retrograde, it's doing that deeper going back. Let's go take a deeper dive into this. So yeah, I totally get that. And it's like a deeper look at the truth. And what's going to heal us, what truth can heal us, help us all heal, help the planet heal, help the people heal. What's the deeper truth?
and people can go and look at 49 and what's happened since then, but one example of history in human history is that's the year NATO was formed, and we kind of see what's going on in the world right now with all that, but I don't want to get into those
Right.
realms. But
Yeah.
but
And we
it's
don't
all
know
about,
what's going to happen exactly, but something's on the horizon for sure.
oh boy, it is. But you know, I think truths are being revealed, really. I think that's the kind of
Yes.
nugget.
Yes.
That's,
Yes.
that's the only. So just moving ahead, because we are at 2025 and beyond. So in the middle, this is Chariklo's chart. And I picked July the 19th, 2026. This is actually thanks to Lynn Bell, who pointed out an aspect in this chart. But on July the 19th, we've got Jupiter at 4 Leo and Uranus at 4 Gemini, Neptune 4 Aries, and Pluto at 4 Aquarius. Okay. And of course, all of those planets all do retrogrades and things every year. So they're all going to be hovering around those degrees. So I picked that one date, but you know, this is all happening really in 2026 and probably into 2027. So Jupiter, ruler or guide for Sagittarius, I prefer the word guide, which is where
I agree. I'm not using rulers anymore because we've had enough of that.
so hierarchical.
Right. It is, isn't it?
But Jupiter, the guide for Sagittarius, is in a lovely fire grand trine with Pluto in the Chariklo discovery chart, which is conjunct the degree where Chiron and Chariklo met in 1949, sitting on the discovery of Chariklo for quite some time during this period. Uranus will be on the moon of Chariklo's discovery chart for quite some time as well in Gemini, which moon, if we're looking at this kind of as a collective, we could say the moon is the people, like in mundane astrology, but also in connection with getting in touch with our more feminine, receptive side. In Gemini, it's about perspectives, alliances, friendships, groups, connections, all that kind of thing. Uranus is kind of going to bring breakthroughs and major changes, right? Because that's what Uranus does, or liberating us perhaps from some other perspectives, can we say. Neptune, the great dissolver, who's kind of like faith and so on, is dissolving Saturn and opposing Mars. It's like, and if we just went a few hours later, the moon would be on Mars actually on that day. So, you know, that's like, so nobody think this is happening on this day. This is just, you know, because some of the aspects were exact. But Pluto, the great transformer, conjunct Juno, the sacred contracts. I always think of Juno as really like almost like the flower of Venus. It's a crown as well, the crown of spirit on the cross of matter, her symbol. So again, it's kind of like that half human, half spirit kind of energy is conjunct Pluto on all of this stuff in the discovery chart. And they're all speaking to each other. Those outer trans-Neptunian energies, the slower moving planets, all in this mini grand trine of transformation, moving us into this higher state of consciousness. And it's all connected with her, with Spider Woman, with Chariklo, with the Grace Spinner, who's helping us to weave this new story in Aquarius. And there's Chariklo on this at this time. She'll be hovering around the sun when from her discovery chart, and her husband Chiron is over here in Taurus, as I mentioned earlier, the most physical of energies. And there's even more I could say. Like, let me just mention that I mentioned they met, the two of them, Chariklo and Chiron, together at 5 Sagittarius in 1949. Well, in 1994, they had, I think it was 3 or 4 exact sextiles because they're heading towards a sextile. And then they will actually be having 12 sextiles between 2028 and 2032 in the signs of Taurus and Pisces, because Chariklo will move into Pisces, and those two will aspect each other over and over and over again, and 12 times, 12 signs, 12, all of those kind of, it's a very important number, clearly in astrology and in the cosmos. And in Taurus, with Chiron in Taurus, and then Chariklo will move into Pisces. So between 28 and 32, they will be speaking to each other in the most earthly of signs and the most interconnected kind of cosmic soup kind of signs of connection with each other, with telepathy, with all of those kind of things. So here again, we have the meeting of body and spirit. Now, I won't go any further than that, other than to say that Chariklo and Chiron will not connect again with each other by conjunction until 2199.
I mean, we may not
So
be around for that one.
that will be back in Sagittarius at 7
Right.
degrees. It's going to be an ongoing process of healing, but this is a really peak time. And this one is bringing in all of these other big agents of change that are all changing signs over this year, 2024, which was Pluto, and then, others moving in. Well, I will mention, though, that we also have dwarf planet Haumea currently at 2 degrees Scorpio, conjunct Chiron in Chariklo's discovery chart, and Haumea looks like the cosmic egg to me. She's shaped like an egg. She's got well, depictions of her at least have a red spot on the side, and she is the creation goddess of the Hawaiian pantheon. So, she's birthing the future as well. We are moving into something
Well, and
that's just,
Chariklo is a symbol. It looks like a sideways, an egg on its side. The bottom circle looks like an egg on its side, and
yeah,
then also getting ready to be conjunct in 2026, getting ready to be conjunct the North Node. And then the North Node is going to go through all of that Aquarius stuff on the discovery chart. So there's a lot of destiny coming to fruition, to greater awareness. I'm not even sure exactly how to phrase that in the moment, just having this like whoa moment, like, wow, this is pretty cool. That's also happening. And as all these things are shifting and at the 4 degree mark and everything else that you've been pointing out. So, woohoo. We are definitely moving into a different realm of consciousness, I think, planetarily. Like this is really symbolizing that. So yeah, I get why you said moving towards or walking towards unity consciousness.
yeah, in just so many ways. And I don't think we can imagine what it's like at this moment,
Yeah.
because just like the myths of Spider Woman that I talked about, it's literally kind of weaving and spinning a really new story, of who it is to be a human, how we live on this earth. And I do think it's all here on this earth. I don't think anything. We're not going to go and inhabit Mars, personally. I don't think so. You?
No, this is just another like lens for looking at how we're at the shift with the December solstice sun on the galactic cross at the galactic center. That's a 26,000 year cycle. We've got even bigger cycles happening in the how our solar system goes around the galaxy every 250 million years, and there's things happening there. And so every planet in our solar system is having all this stuff going on. Plus, of course, we can imagine that it's true for the centaurs and the asteroids and all the other things that are happening out there. So it feels like it's all kind of coming together to create a quantum shift that we can't possibly necessarily in this I don't know, experience of consciousness that we have, we can try to imagine, but I don't think we really know.
I
Yeah.
don't think we really know. You know, people have guessed at telepathy and all kinds of things, but I think it's beyond what we can imagine at this precise moment. I think we get glimpses of it, right, of what it could
Yes.
be. Um,
We can get excited.
and we can, but I think that's the main thing. I think it's all looking quite beautiful, just to kind of, just what takes me into the beauty of it is just to go back to her chart, and just look at that web of interconnectedness of just it's just so gorgeous. It's just so harmonious and so full of grace. And I think to if we want to, go and mention, certain kind of other forms of prediction or oracle. Um, this is the daughter, the divine child. She was at 10 Pisces, and I've still got more research to do with her. This is all really unfolding work, but she was in Pisces, that most interconnected sign, but also I always see it as the amniotic fluid of creation as well. So
Some, my transcendental meditation days, that would have been called the field of pure consciousness, where
yeah,
anything and everything arises into creation from that field. Anything's possible, anything can happen there, but it needs to have a form to move into. So in that field, it's like, what do you pick? What do you choose? You could choose anything. So choose something you really want.
dream it into being
Frame it into
or
being. Yes, exactly.
attention. And this is partly why more and more of my work involves not just astrology, but working with the natural laws of the universe, which is very much Jupiterian, Sagittarian as well. So the law of attraction, but also all the natural laws of because I think we are co-creating this future. I don't think it's just set in stone, and we get to choose
We're
what we are
dreaming,
creating.
we're dreaming it into being. And so how we're dreaming now is never been more important. I mean, it's always important, but it's never been more important. Yeah.
And, and Kaylin, what date is this going out?
Say what? The
What
summit?
date?
It's
What date are you?
January 29th.
29th. So by the time this goes out, you will have heard me interviewing Kaylin in something I'm sending out in January.
Yes.
And I've called it the Quantum Astrology Gathering. I think Kaylin and I have a similar kind of approach in that, it kind of distresses me a little bit when I just see everybody moaning about the planetary energies, and so instead of working with them and understanding them and understanding how it works within you, because to go back to the whole thing, healing comes from the inside out. That center point there, right?
Yes. And we're co-creating. We're what we're thinking, feeling, doing, you know, uh, being, I guess. I don't know. There's probably something else I could say about that, but whatever it is that we're thinking about, speaking about, and doing, taking action towards is creating our reality in every moment. And so we need to be more conscious and aware than ever that what we're creating and what we're taking action on and what we're thinking and what we're wanting to give voice to is what we really want. And not just complain or
We need to
blame or go into shaming ourselves or other people or things that it's easy to do, but it's like when we catch ourselves doing it, shift that right away so that we can then, look at how can we come into greater love? How can we come into the healing power of love to change our world, to change ourselves and to change our world from the inside out?
and I think astrology as a entity would be well served to do the same instead
Indeed.
of going, oh my God, this is going to be awful.
Yeah. This is evil. This is bad. Oh, this doesn't look good at all. Like, that's one way to look at it. And maybe that works for you, but I don't agree. So yeah.
I always look for what's possible and where's the healing here
Yeah.
in
And
this kind
sometimes it is hard. Sometimes it is difficult, but it's because it needs to happen in order for it to shift and change, and the alchemy can take place, and then something new can come in. It's not that it's just about having something bad happen.
I'm all for talking to where it might be challenging, but here's how you can face it, kind of thing. And
Yes,
here's
exactly.
it, because we're in this kind of call and response kind
Mhm.
of energy with
Beautiful.
everything,
Yes.
other with the cosmos, with the earth.
Yes.
Very sure.
So are you feeling complete with your presentation? And so okay, so in that case then you did mention something about the summit that is airing in the early part of January of 2025 that I was blessed to be a guest with you with. So we can talk about, well, that'll have already aired, but then maybe people will have an ability to get connected to it later. I'm just wondering.
I think there will be. I
Okay.
haven't decided how that's going to work yet, but I don't know when you're starting to send the registration for
Probably
this.
around the time that you're doing yours, I think. Yeah.
So feel free to put my link in, and I'll put
Yes.
your link in mine.
Yeah.
So because I think we're kind of both on a very similar mission, and I know we're not the only people doing this.
No, more of us, the merrier, and the more we can support each other and get this information to the people, the better, because we can all then support one another. And it's a transition, and transitions aren't easy, um, but definitely worth it when we get to the other side.
There's a lot of, people don't like change, people like certainty. So, I just think that my look at that moment in and beyond, in 2026 and beyond is, to my mind, just says this is all looking so good. This is all looking
I,
so healed.
I'm right there with you on that, Louise. And also, do you have a free gift you're offering, and anything else that you want to say as we wrap this up?
There is a free gift, and Kaylin's got a link to it. I can't remember the exact title, but it is Chariklo. I did a brief video for each Chariklo through each of the signs, and there's a PDF that gives dates, so you
Oh,
can
so you can
even.
find out where your Chariklo was when you were born? Oh, that's so good. Because I think after listening to this, people are going to want to know that. Yeah.
You might have to go deeper. You might have to go to astro.com or something to go and find the degree, but at least you'd know what's signed. So yeah.
Yeah. That's great. Awesome. Thank you so much, Louise. This has been spectacular. I love it. I've learned so much. Oh my gosh, this is so good. And one of the things I love about astrology is there's always something more to learn. It's like, Sagittarius can get bored, so can Aquarius get bored, but there's always the next layer or next level or next something. So this has been a beautiful journey into that, and I appreciate it so much. Thank you for being a part of this and being here and looking
Oh,
forward.
thank you.
Yep. All right. So bye, everybody.